Hello everybody, today we will be recreating Fabled Legacy's Bandit Joe. So Bandit Joe is the first boss in Fabled Legacy's first dungeon called Raided Village. And so we'll be recreating the boss's attacks. Now for this tutorial you will need to know some scripting knowledge, get your hands on some of the Roblox Studio things, but other than that, let's get started. The first thing we can do is we can insert a rig. So let's do that now. Let's choose just a block avatar for now. We can name this Bandit Joe. Alright, here we go. Bandit Joe. So now we have a rig, and then we can, position it at the center. Okay, so now it's at the center. I guess we can create a central part too. So this part will also be at 0, 0, and we can just name it central part, and then we can set the the size to 2 by 2. Turn off can collide and make it anchored, so then we can now place it into 0, 0. All right, just like that. So well, it seems like the origin position is just a bit off. It was not truly 0, 0, but now it is. So now we have a central part. And how about this? Let's create a folder for the boss. So let's call this Bandit Joe. And then we'll put the rig and the central part inside. And let's just make this a bit transparent. Okay, so next we can make the lasers. Let's create a new folder called attacks, and then we can store the lasers inside. So let's create a new part. This is going to be the Sunburst laser. So let's make it 6 wide. Why not? And then we can stretch this out really far. Hold Control, and then you can stretch this out. We can name this Sunburst laser. Change it to some red, and then we can change the material to neons to make it glow. I guess we can change the color a little bit. There we go. And then we can change the properties. So let's make it can collide false, but we'll make it anchored, and that should be it for the Sunburst laser. Okay, so if we look at it from far away, we can probably expand it a bit more because it probably looks a bit too short. Let's just make it 150. Okay, and then we will set this invisible for now and maybe make it locked. So now we can create the second attack, which is this circle thing. And how we are going to do this is we are going to have two parts and we can union them. So let's create, I guess, a big circle first, or we can copy this and then we can put it over here. Let's set the size to, I guess, 6 by 6 for now. Let's make it visible, and then we can change the shape to a cylinder to create a circle. But you see here it's quite sideways, so what we can do is we can rotate it upwards just like that, and then we can make it shorter, and now we have a circle. We can fiddle with the size to make it square. So now it has a size of 111, and then we can expand this out. So let's make it 80 by 80 and see if that's pretty good. Alright, perfect. And then we can name this to a circle for now. And now what we can do is we can duplicate this. And I'll make it darker so you can see. And what we can do is let's make this higher. And then we can shrink it. So let's shrink it all the way down to here. And then what we can do is we can negate. So we can negate this part, which is Control-Shift-N. So we've negated this part, and what this will do is it will create a hole, if we were to union this with the circle. So if we union it, then we have this. So you see here there is, I guess, some dark side that goes along with this. So what we can do is we can enable use part color, and it is gone. So here we go, we have a circle attack, which is the second attack of the Bandit Joe. So let's set this transparency to 1, and we can make it locked. And now we can create a script. So this will be our main script for the Bandit Joe. And what will be in here would be some attacks. Let's create some variables. So the first one will be for the central part. So it will be local central part equals script dot parent wait for child central part, and then let's get the boss. So the boss would be the Bandit Joe. So we will do script dot parent wait for child Bandit Joe. And now what we will do is let's create the Sunburst attack. I am thinking what we can do is we can duplicate the laser a few times and make it go at random rotations. Let's type in function new Sunburst laser, and let's create an attacks folder at the top. So local attacks folder, or just local attacks equals script.parent wait for child attacks, and then we can access the Sunburst laser. So now let's create a clone of the Sunburst laser. So local clone equals attacks.sunburst laser clone, and then we will set the parent to the workspace, and then we can set the rotation of the clone to a random rotation. So we're going to be using degrees for this. So let's create a random rotation using math.random. So we could range it from 0 degrees to 30 degrees. So I'm thinking we could use math.random for that. So local rotation equals math.random 0 360, and then we can update the clone C-frame. So clone.cframe times equals C-frame dot angles, and then we have to adjust which of the 3 values we should change. So it might rotate on the wrong axis, but we can fix it later. So here we are. So we have the C-frame dot angles, and then I guess that'll be it. So let's just clone it 2 times, not 2 times, maybe 10 times. So let's create a for loop. So for I equals 1 to 10 do, and then we can call this function. So new Sunburst laser. So now let's run this program. So here you go, we have some lasers, and it's quite hard to see, so I'm going to update the transparency. But as you can see, we have 10 lasers with random rotations, and all is well. And what we could do is we could put it in a while loop. So this will be the boss loop. So we could do while true do, and then we can wait, I guess, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and then we can put this inside. Maybe add a wait so we can see it spiraling out, and then we can just add a wait to make it look nicer. So maybe task.wait 0.2, and I'm going to add a preemptive wait here so we can see it all in action and we don't have to miss anything. So maybe 8 seconds. Oh, I missed one thing. How about we set the transparency to 0 or 0.5? This is just so we can see all of the lasers in action. So we are waiting 8 seconds, maybe 10 seconds, and hopefully we do see something like this. Oh, you see that? Well, it's not perfectly aligned, but it does create a series of lasers. So that's pretty good. So what we can do next is we can adjust the C frame of it. We'll get rid of the times equal and we can say so clone.cframe equals the central part.cframe, and then we can update the rotation. And then maybe afterwards, maybe wait, I guess 2 or 1 second, we can destroy it. So delay 1 function, and then we can destroy the clone. Alright, let's see how this plays out. Alright, here we go. And it worked so far, and as you can see, the laser is positioned at the center, which is pretty good. Alright, let's get rid of this task.wait function. We can add one, I guess, over here. And now we can get started with the second attack. So the second attack is the one with the circle. So what we can do is we can say function, we can call it new circle just for the consistency. I don't think we need to clone it, so we can just activate it. Okay, well, let's just access the circle. So local circle equals attacks.circle, and then we can set its transparency to 0.5, and then delay 1 function, and then we can destroy it, I guess, 1 second afterwards. Well, not destroy it, but we can set the transparency to 1. So circle dot transparency equals 1. So maybe after 2 seconds, we can create the new circle, and then we can wait, I guess, 4 seconds. Alright, let's see how it works. So here we go, we have the Sunburst, and then we have that, and it works. Alright, that's beautiful. Now, if we were to play this, I guess we can play it with the actual character. So here we are, we're in the actual game. And as you can see, if we touch these lasers, they do nothing. Because we haven't coded it actually hurting the players. So let's just do that now. What we can add is a damage attribute, so we can see it, so we can tell it how much damage it wants to do. So let's set the damage of the circle to 40, and then let's create the damage attribute for the Sunburst laser, and maybe we could set it to 20 for now. So now we can create a module script for a laser, so we can organize some functions that could take colliding players, hurt any players that are inside the laser, and all of that jazz. Alright, so let's go into server script service. We can create a modules folder, and then we can put in a module script, and we can name this laser. So let's rename the module variables to laser, and now we can create a function that will take in any colliding players. So function laser.get colliding players, and we will pass in a laser. So it will be a base part. So laser and a base part. So this part is specifying what type the parameter should be. So in this case, we should make it a base part. So we are going to be using laser get touching parts, but that requires a touch interest. So what we can do at the top is we can create a touched event, laser.touched connect function end. And so what we have done is we just created a touched event, and it's empty. But what this would do is it will create a touch interest inside the laser. So now what we can do is we can put this inside a for each loop. So for underscore hit in pairs, and then the laser.get touching parts too. So this function returns all of the touching parts, or all of the parts that the laser is touching, and it just iterates through that array. So now let's get the hits character. So local hits character is equal to hit find first ancestor of class model, and let's get the player. So local hit player equals game.players, get player from character, hit character. So we are assuming that hit is part of a player's character, so it's a body part. So what we can say is if it is a player, so if it hit player and hit char, we can insert it into a colliding players array. So let's create an empty colliding players table. And what we can do here is we can check if the player is already inside the colliding players table. So how we can do that is we can say local found equals false, and then we can iterate through the colliding players array. So for underscore colliding player in pairs colliding players 2, and we can check if it's the same as the hit player. So if colliding player is equal to hit player, then found, then the player is found inside and we can break. But if the player is not found in the array, then we can insert it to the colliding players array. So if not found, then table.insert colliding players and then hit player. So this will return a table of colliding players. So now let's go back to the main script and let's require that module. So let's get the server script service. So get service, server script service. And let's get the laser module. So local laser equals requiring because we're getting a module script. So server script service.modules.laser. So for now, what we can do is we can just print out the colliding players. So we can print out laser.getCollidingPlayers of this clone, and we will see if it shows anything. So here we are, and nothing is happening for some reason. Well, it turns out I forgot to return the colliding players table, so let's do that right now. That was quite a silly error anyways. So now we have an array with ... and it has my name in it. As you can see, if you clicked on the name, then it would highlight the player object. So that's good. So now we can create a function which hurts the colliding players. So let's create a function. So function laser dot, I guess, damage or hurt colliding players. And we will take in this laser, so base part, and then we will iterate through the colliding players. So for underscore hit player in pairs laser dot get colliding players laser 2, check if it has a character. So local hit char equals hit player dot character. If hit char, then we will get the humanoid. So hit char dot humanoid, and then we can take damage. Laser, and then we will get the damage attribute. So damage. So laser colon get attribute damage, and that should be it. Alright, so let's go back to here and let's replace this line with laser.hurt colliding players, and we will put in the clone, and now let's test it. So it seems like it's still not working, so let's go back. Alright, here we are. So let's check the humanoid. Let's take the health. Oh, and would you look at that, we died. So that was pretty good, but maybe we could make it flash. So when it flashes, it will then fade away. So let's create a function that makes the laser fade. So function laser dot fade, pass in a laser parameter, and what we can do is we can tween its transparency to 1. So let's get the tween service because we're going to need that in order to tween. So local tween service equals game get service tween service. Let's go back down and let's create some goal properties because for a tween you need to have 3 parts, which is the instance being tweened, the thing you're tweening, some tween info like duration, and the goal properties, like the properties you want to change. So let's create the goal properties, and what we want to do is we want to change the transparency to 1. So let's just type in transparency equals 1, and then we can have some tween info. So I'm gonna call it TI. So local TI equals tween info.new, and then I guess the default fade time could be 0.25 seconds. And now let's create the actual tweens. So local fade tween equals tween service colon create, and then we will put in the laser, then the TI, and then the goals, and then we can play it. So fade tween colon play, and then we can wait until it's finished. So we can type in fade tween dot completed colon wait, and if we don't want it to wait, we can just put in a spawn, I guess, in a asynchronous thread. So let's go back. What we can do is we can make the clone's transparency become really bright, so it will be 0, and then we can let it fade. So laser dot fade, and then we can pass in the clone. And maybe we could do the same for the circle. Okay, so we will put in a Hertz colliding player. So laser dot Hertz colliding players clone, well not clone but circle, and then we can make it really bright. So circle dot transparency equals 0, and then we can make it fade. So laser dot fade circle. And we can remove this line entirely because the fade function will make it turn its transparency to 1 anyways. So that is that for now, and let's go back and see if it works. Okay, so here we are, and as you can see, we have some flashing. And oh, it looks like we can still die in the middle. So if we go over here, oh, okay, so maybe we want to have a longer reaction time for the circles. So I'm thinking about 2.5 seconds. Let's try 2.5 seconds. And maybe we don't want to have to hard code the get attribute damage. Maybe we want to have some sort of custom damage for this function. So let's create a new parameter, which will be the damage, and this will be the number. And then we can put in take damage. And then what we can do is we can pass in the attribute. So clone colon get attribute damage. And we could do the same for the circle. So circle colon get attribute damage. So hopefully that should do well for us. So now we have this, and it seems to be working fine. If we stand in the red, we should die, and we have a lot more time. So that's a well enough bonus. Maybe it's not 10 sunbursts, and the hitboxes may be quite inaccurate because it's a union. So, well, that's just quite unfortunate. Maybe there is some sort of way to get around this. If you know some sort of idea for that, make sure you leave a comment. And we're not going to be doing the black orb for now because it requires the player to do some damage, and would be quite complicated. And I also noticed that you can push the character around. So maybe as a touch-up, we can prevent this from happening. So what we can do is we can go to the collision groups editor. So if you don't know where it is at model, advanced, and then collision groups. We can add a players group, so we will click add group, and we will create a players group for the players, and we will create one for the enemies. So let's put in enemies, and then what we can do is we can select Bandit Joe, and then we will click the plus right next to the enemies. So it would add the selected parts to this group. So I just clicked it, and if we take a look at the collision group, it is enemies. Now, what about the player though? So how are we going to add the player to the players collision group? So what we can do is we could add a simple server script which will have a player added function. So game.players.player added connect function. We will get the character. So we need to pass in the player parameter, and then we can make another function for when it loads this character. So player.character added connect function, and then pass in the character. So player char, and I don't know if you can actually set the collision ID of a model itself into the collision group, but for now let's just set the collision group of each part separately. So we will use a iteration loop. So for underscore v in pairs player char 2, and we can check if it's a base part. So if v is a base part, then v dot collision, what's it, collision group or collision ID. So let's just go to a base part, and it says collision group, so we can change it to players. Let's name this script server for now. Oh, we have an error. So it says here for, okay, well, we just put in the instance, we forgot to do get children. Or should we do get descendants? Let's do get descendants. So get descendants. So then we can make sure that every part is added to the players group. So let's go here. And we haven't changed the settings with the collision groups, but we can check if we are in the players. So yes, we are. So here it says default, and it says players here. How about this? Let's work on these settings here. So it says here enemies can collide with enemies, maybe not. Let's just tick that off, and we can click off players. So what will happen is that the enemies will be able to go through each other, and it can go through players. It has already changed the settings for the players. So what we can do is we can make it so that the players don't collide with each other. You can change it however you want. So that is that, and hopefully it should work. So you can see it partially works. Like I said, the head is kind of going through, but the other body parts are not. So what I'm thinking is that we might have to do a character appearance loaded event, and what this would do is it would fire only if everything is loaded in. And now we have, hopefully we can go through it. So yeah, that was the real issue. So yeah, that is that. If you want to see me recreate the final boss, which is the bandit leader, leave a comment down below. Goodbye and have a good day.